So, like the thumbnail of the video says, it's kind of story time about can you start a car with 3-year-old gas? So, let's take a look. So, between my wife and I, we have 4 cars. She has her Sequoia. I've got my Toyota truck. Then I've got my Dodge Challenger. And then I've got, affectionately known as Betsy. So, story time revolves around Betsy used to sit out in the front of my house, and I parked it there because my wife, it's not that she's a hoarder, but so you can see for yourself, she keeps saying, we're going to have a garage sale. So she puts more stuff into the garage and then never has a sale. And long story short, I wasn't able to put my old Dodge Betsy into the garage. So I figured, well, I'll just park it out front. And then one thing led to another, and the battery went dead. I tried to charge the battery and it wouldn't take a charge. Then the registration expired, and I just said, okay, well, I'll do it later. It was getting winter time. I said, okay, well, I'll mess with it in the spring. So fast forward 3 years, 4 months, it still sat out there. Had a lot of people always inquiring about it, saying, hey man, are you selling your Dodge? I'd like to buy the Dodge. And I'm like, no, I'm going to hang on to it. So the other day, a friend of mine who's a police officer here, he came up and he said, hey, cul-de-sacs, you can't have vehicles parked right onto the curb. They have to be sideways up against the curb. So I was like, okay, well, I haven't started it in 3 years. It's got a half a tank of gas. I don't know if it's actually going to run or not. And he's like, well, if you need some help, give me a call tomorrow, and a couple officers and I will come out and will help push it. It's a big truck, and I have an incline to get up into my driveway. So long story short, I said, well, let me see. I started looking online. Can you actually salvage 3-year-old gas? No. Apparently not. Because everything I saw online said you cannot salvage 3-year-old gas. Because it starts to do something that's called phasing. And once gas has reached a phasing stage where it actually starts to separate and gum up and turn into varnish, and the ethanol separates from the gasoline, so you'll have alcohol at the bottom of the tank, gasoline or whatever is left on top. So let me show you what I did. It's starting to rain right now, so bear with me. Let's see, where is it at? Okay, so I got a bottle of Staybill. I got some dry gas. It's from a company called Heat. And I picked up a new battery. And now keep in mind, my Dodge truck, if you look at the paint, all of the clear coat, like I said, it's raining, so you can't really tell, but normally this is all white up on top. So the Texas Heat said, you know what? We're going to have a battle. Texas Heat versus paint and the interior of a car. Now, Dodges have been very well known for their dashboards cracking as they get older. This is a 1997 Dodge truck. I bought it brand new back in 1997 off the dealership floor. And so I stuck the Staybill in. I put the dry gas in. Now, dry gas is supposed to get rid of any water that the fuel has tried to suck in. The Staybill is supposed to stabilize gasoline, and it does a great job, but its whole intent is you have to use it before you plan on storing gasoline. In my case, 3 years it went by. So I thought, I'm going to try it, and I topped it off with 2 extra gallons of fresh gasoline. And I thought, well, maybe the fresh gasoline will help mix up a little bit in the tank and I will tell you, I said a silent prayer, and I was like, please God, just let this thing just start up to where I can pull it in the driveway and get it off the street and not have to worry about it getting towed. And I'll be damned. Old Betsy, I stuck the key in, turned the key, and she fired right up on the first turn. And of course, I'm like grabbing the door, slamming the door shut, and stick it in reverse, and it won't move because I guess the transmission fluid has been sitting in the bottom of the pan, so I had to let it sit there for a little bit, and it started building up pressure, and then it slowly started jerking, and it was started backing up. Put it in drive, did the same thing, kind of sat there and was just not doing anything, and then all of a sudden, clunk, it went into gear, pulled it up. Now, also keep in mind the tires had been sitting there. I did air up the tires afterwards, but before they were sitting at 18 pounds, and they had flat spotted. So as I'm driving up the driveway with it, it's doing this. It's rocking back and forth on the flat spots of the tire, which I thought was kind of hilarious. And but just to show you, I want to show you this. So we got 220,000 miles on her, and we'll stick the key in, and she fires right up. No check engine light. Like I said, no check engine light. She fires right up on the first turn. And I know there's some of you out there that, let me close the door because that buzzer is a little bit annoying, but I know that there's some of you out there that'll go, well, you know, that gasoline is probably only running off a little bit of gasoline and all that varnish is going to sludge up. To answer your question or to comment regarding that, I let the truck run because I did top off some antifreeze into it because it was a little bit low, and checked the belt and everything after I got it into the driveway, and it actually worked. And I let it run for an hour, and the thermostat, it took, I guess the temperature was around 240, 250 degrees before it finally popped open. And I can only imagine that that's just rust. But the thermostat did open up on it, and it all of a sudden it cooled back down again, and I let it run for an hour out here in the driveway just to see how's it going to do. Like I said, there's no codes. It's not hiccuping at all. I don't know if you can hear it. It's banging on all 8 cylinders, nice and smooth. Now, 220,000 miles. Old Betsy, it's got a 318 in it. It doesn't have the 360. I opted for the 318 because it's been an engine that's been around forever with Dodge. And it's kind of like the old 283s or the 350 with Chevrolet. It's a solid platform motor. And I thought, you know, I think it had 100 and, what was it, 220 horsepower, 195 horsepower. It wouldn't, in today's standards, it was nothing. But it was fine for what it was. And it's probably down to about 90 horsepower right now. The last time I drove it, I mean, you know, it's just getting wore out. But this was the only vehicle that I've ever had that I could do anything with it, and it always took it. And the only vehicle I've had that I haven't had to touch anything on it. Zero. Now, 220,000 miles, and of course there's going to be some people out there that go, there's just no way that that vehicle has gone that many miles without replacing something. Now, I have replaced tires. I have replaced brake pads on it and rotors and drums. But that's normal wear and tear. Front end alignment, this model Dodges, they really need front end alignments a lot. So front end alignments, oil changes, and that's it. The water pump is original. Alternator is original. Starter is original. Fuel pump is original. Headlight bulbs, blinker bulbs, taillight bulbs, everything is original on the truck, and it still works. And I was in shock. But not only did the Texas sun do a number on the outside paint job of this car, but it did a number on the interior. So as you can see, the headliner's coming down, but the headliner's coming down, and that's still not the worst of it. So I saw the dashboard was cracked in a lot of places, and as I was touching the dashboard, more and more of it was just like brittle. And I would venture to say that this is probably, I don't know if that's going to focus or not, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's not like really thin and flimsy, but it's so brittle that you can just snap pieces off with your finger. That's what the Texas sun did. So I'll let you see what I'm in store for, because I like old Betsy. She's been a good truck. My wife hates this truck because she's just like, well, it looks like it looks like shit, and just get rid of it. But I've kept insurance on it all these years, even though I've driven it Zippo. But the dashboard has actually self-destructed. And let me show you what I mean. So we've got the cup holder. This piece of trim is broken off, and you can see how much that this dashboard will move. All of that is broken. Now, yes, you see the glove box. Funny story. My daughter wants to take a look inside the truck because she's 8 years old and she doesn't remember ever riding in this truck because I haven't driven it in almost 3.5 years. So I told her, and she was like so happy. She came home from school and she's like, oh my gosh, you got her running. And I'm like, yep, Betsy's alive. And she looked and she went to open up the glove box, and the entire glove box, as she touched the handle, she didn't even lift up the handle, she just touched it, it fell onto the floor. So, and you see I've got pieces of the dash. So it's going to be interesting because there's some support pieces here, like this little piece. Let me see if I can. This little piece was attached to there, and it helped hold in the overdrive and the fog lights, but this piece just broke off. Oops. This is about to just fall apart, and it looks like this is part of the bracing for the dashboard, the front piece. Now the front piece I've got to replace, obviously the top, but now it's gotten to the point where when I go on this side and push, the whole passenger side part of the dash is actually moving. The gauges and everything still work. The AC still works. The heat still works. The light switch still works. But now I have to see, because first I was pricing just a dash top and then a dash face, this little face plate right here. And a brand new replacement was like $139 on the faceplate, and I think it was $320 for a brand new dash top, so I could replace the whole top of the dashboard. The unfortunate part is now the rest of the dash is actually falling apart with the glove box and everything, so I'm kind of stuck in a situation where I'm going to have to replace all of the dash. So if there's any Dodge people out there that have got a 97, 98, because the 97, the cup holder is up here, and I think on the 98 it was actually a drawer that you could pull out from the bottom for a cup holder. But if there's any Dodge people out there that have any knowledge, can you replace the entire dash in a Dodge with a 97 Dodge? Can you replace the dash with a 98 dash? I don't need the instrument cluster or any of that. I just need just the dash, or am I stuck with 97? And from the looks of it, I'm going to have to buy an entire dash assembly, because even under the steering wheel, this part, that screw right there, the plastic is broken through. So I've got to replace that. So the seats aren't in bad condition. I've got a little rip on the driver's side over here on the side, but that can easily sew that up. It's just right along the seam. So the seam has come loose. And the back I've got to clean up. I used to, you see all that dog hair back there? Long story short, whenever I had to take the dogs to the vet or to go get them cut or whatever, I would always put them in the Dodge, because I figured, put them in here, don't have to worry about them getting hairs in my Toyota truck. I'm definitely not putting them in my wife's Sequoia, or they're definitely not going in a Challenger, because they're going to tear up the seats with their nails. But yes, 3-year-old gas can be salvageable. Now, I don't have a registration, and there's no inspection on it, and I'm kind of in a pickle, because in order to get it inspected, I have to drive it down to the inspection place. I cannot get it registered without it being inspected first. So I've got to drive it down to inspection place, which is only about 1.5 miles from me. My luck, I'll get a ticket again, because it happened to me years ago. I was driving to go get it inspected, registration had expired, and they gave me a ticket, and I was 1 block away from the inspection place, and the cop didn't care. He just wrote me a ticket anyway. Had to go down to the courthouse, pay $20 for them to dismiss the ticket, because I did get the registration and everything done that day. So I have to take Betsy down, get it inspected, then go down to the courthouse, get it re-registered, get new plates for her. But I don't think that the inspection place is going to allow an inspection to be done, even though everything physically is working. Headlights, exhaust, runs nice and smooth, no check engine lights, blinkers work, everything. I don't know if they're going to look at all of this and go, this is a safety hazard, because I'm a little bit worried that if I hit a bump in the road, that the dashboard may actually fall into my lap. But I need to find a dashboard. So any Dodge people out there, if you know, can it be replaced and upgraded to the 98? Or maybe it's just this bottom section that I have to get of a 98, because I'd like to really get rid of this cup holder. But I don't know how the plumbing and everything works regarding the heat and the air and any, like the stereo, if it's different. I don't think the 98s had the overdrive button and the fog light button, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some, going to have to play Clouseau and do some investigating. But right now it's looking like, because if it's $300 for a dash top and $130 something for the front faceplate, I can imagine an entire dash assembly with support and everything from the dealership is going to run me $1,000, and I'm not spending $1,000 just for this part. So looks like I may have to hit up a junkyard to see if I can find an entire dash, because at this point I don't have to worry about finding screws, because I can just basically pull the dash and it will just completely come apart, and then I can see where all the screws are and then take them out. It's kind of embarrassing, but you know, in my defense, the paint was immaculate on this, because I've always taken very good care of all my vehicles, and this is the first time that I've ever let a vehicle just sit out in the sun in Texas. I mean, when you think, if it's 115 degrees outside, it's about 170 inside. So this thing sat out in 3 summers and in 3 cold winters. And in actuality, I'm surprised it's not worse than what it is. But she's still salvageable. The paint, I can do the paint. I can sand off all the clear coat and put a fresh layer of paint on, and then re-clear coat it myself, and then sand it, and then put a good wax on it. So I can do all that. So I will resurrect the truck, because I'm not getting rid of it. I don't care what my wife says. I'm not getting rid of it. But I want to get it back up and running, and I am surprised as all get out that 3-year-old gas still worked. So for anybody that tells you ethanol gas after 3 years is, I can tell you from running the truck, that 3-year-old gas is salvageable. I think that between using the dry gas by heat and then using the Sta-Bil, the whole bottle into it, and then topping it off with some fresh gasoline, maybe mixed it up just enough to where it is still combustible. Now, I have driven it down the street just to see, does the transmission shift gears? And it still shifts gears. So it shifted from first to second to third, so I was happy with that. See, it's running a little bit hot again. See, I'm about I guess about 230 degrees right there. So when it comes to maintenance, I'm going to turn her off. When it comes to maintenance, besides getting the dash, I'm going to go ahead and the water pump doesn't leak. I checked it, not a drop underneath the vehicle at all. But I'm going to replace the thermostat like ASAP. And because on an old engine, you definitely don't want that type of heat because it will warp the head and you'll crack a head gasket, and that's another whole ball of wax I just don't want to deal with this truck. I don't mind spending a couple $100 to kind of get it up and going again, but I don't want to go like really deep diving into it because these things only go for 18 to 2,500 is on average, depending on the condition of it, and even with high mileage, because a lot of people that do landscaping, they still use these trucks to tow their landscaping equipment. And I've got a tow package on this one. I used to tow my old Cobra. I used to have a supercharged Cobra that I used to take out and drag race, and I used to tow it to the track with this. And I've had many a cars through the years I used to drag race. But the Cobra, my wife was like, you'll never sell it, ever. You'll never get your money, what you're asking for it. But the Cobra had a good reputation. I was part of DFW Stings, and it's a website, and the car had a reputation. It was just balls out nasty. So I bought the Challenger, and I posted up the Cobra for sale, and a guy came out. I posted up that morning. A guy came out late that afternoon. He took it out for a drive. He said, it kind of grinds going in a second. I'm like, I shipped at $7,000, and it doesn't grind going in a second, so I don't know what you're talking about. I said, but that's okay. I've got somebody else looking at it. And long story short, he had a wad of cash, and the old Cobra drove away. And my wife was shocked that it actually sold, but so I had a Challenger. Have I done anything to it? No. Do I want to put a twin screw on it? Yeah. But then again, I know if I do a twin screw, then I need to upgrade the transmission. Definitely have to upgrade the rear end, upgrade the fuel system, bigger injectors. It's a deep hole to get into when you start modifying cars. But back to this truck. I'm going to try to bring old Betsy back to life. I'll do some episodes on the progress of me painting her, of replacing the dash, and doing some odds and ends, and do a little before and after, like before I started it up and kind of brought it back to life, because she's in tough shape. I guess all in due time. But so that's the adventures of Andre Vlogs for today. Betsy, we're going to call this Can You Salvage 3-Year-Old Gas? And the Resurrection of Betsy. And see how it goes, restoring her. So until the next video, hope you guys have yourself a good one. If you have any questions, comment below. And by the way, if you're a Dodge guy or girl out there and you know anything about the dashboards for these vehicles and what's required and what will interchange, or if you got a hookup, if you got a hookup at a dealership where I can get this at cost, hook a brother up, because looks like I'm going to need a little bit of help with this. Or I'm going to have to find one at a junkyard that's in decent shape. So until next video, have yourself a good one. The Betsy Vlogs. Resurrection of Betsy. Till next time. Bye.